Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We're an anime podcast. We watch an anime every 2 weeks. We come together on the podcast. We talk about it. And then we turn the discussion over to you. We are talking about the second half of Jujutsu Kaisen's first season. So we're talking about episodes 14 through 24. Our last episode, we talked about the first half. We're now going into that back half, talking about everything that happened in there. And to do that, before we even get into spoilers or anything, we need the help of my co-host to discuss it. And then first off, we have the panda to my panda, Jeremy.
Hey. So let's see. You guys ever heard of Amazing Cultivation Simulator?
No.
Okay, cool. You should check it out. Everybody should check it out. It is the craziest thing I have seen. Right? So, Jason, you like RimWorld. I like RimWorld. Troy knows what RimWorld is because of us. Imagine if you take RimWorld and you just go in a completely Chinese direction with it. Because this game goes into Chinese mythology. It goes into like the Wheel of Five Elements. It goes into having to like arrange your base with feng shui so that everything has the proper balance of elements. You wind up, what you're cultivating when it says Amazing Cultivation Simulator, what you're actually cultivating is the people in your base. You are teaching them how to be like different kinds of masters of their chi. It is really, really cool. And every time that I get a little bit further in the game, like some new system unlocks and it's an entirely different game. Like the way you play it, you can do things that are just so different from what you were doing before that it feels like you're playing a different game. Really, really cool. Highly recommended. It's got a really steep learning curve, but it's also really, really pretty.
Steam? This is on Steam?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
All right. And we also have the zebra to my panda, Jason. How you doing, Jason?
Fantastic.
Okay.
No, not muted. Just trying to figure out what you were meaning, because normally it's an insult of some kind.
Panda plus baseball.
It'll pay off when we get to the baseball episode.
Yeah, been fantastic. I finally took down Maven in Path of Exile. Took me 2 leagues to do it, but here we are.
And, is Maven the final boss of like the new content?
Of the new content, yeah.
Sweet.
So she's the new boss, and so there's a mechanic where she like these balls come at you, they hit you, and then they like put goo on the ground, right? And they'll continually cover the area you have to fight her. Well, she's got a memory game. It's a Simon Says memory game where it's like it'll light up sections, and you have to copy the sections or you're dead. Well, if too many of those things paint the entire area, we call it Bob Rossing.
Troy is really, really engaged in your story.
Yeah. So apparently learning about feng shui is fine.
Welcome to Baka. What are we doing?
We're moving on. How you doing, Troy?
It's the same game you've talked about in half our episodes. I even know you watched a new movie. You've done other stuff over the past 2 weeks besides just that one game. Look, if you haven't sold them on it, it's not going to happen. It's not even a new season yet.
You asked me what I was doing. I was excited that I finally got this thing. But I also watched Army of the Dead. That was
paid by Path of Exile.
Right. Army of the Dead was very fun. That was... I didn't care about any of the characters.
But it is fun. Yeah, it was fun.
It was very fun.
Especially when you use that big saw, you know,
to cut a door.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Technically.
Yeah, it's a ride. After watching Snyder Cut of the Justice League, which I was actually pretty impressed with the storytelling and character building in that, going to this was just, and it's funny too, because he has a ton of like interviews, like more interviews explaining his thought process and for reasons for why doing this and that than any other director I think has ever done for their movies. And it's become more of a cult following, as far as like a cult film following than I think anything else. I think it's just fun is the best way to describe it.
I've watched a bunch of his videos for Army of the Dead. Netflix is putting out like their own videos, and then Vanity Fair did a bunch of videos with him. And I have the same feeling as you. This is a fun movie that is really, really dumb. But then watching his videos, I'm like, man, this is a guy who loves what he's doing, and I can't hate on that. At least,
Right.
he's.
Yeah.
And my name is Troy. These are things I've mostly mentioned before. Season 2 of Love, Death, and Robots came out. It's not as many episodes as the last one, but if you like dark, short sci-fi stories, and they're just all computer animated, and they're all beautiful in their own way. Some are photorealistic, some are, high concept art, but they are mostly all really good. And even the lamer ones, at least still pretty to look at. I would suggest checking that out. For those of us with little kids, Bluey Season 2 is on Disney Plus, and that's still the best kid show I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, an episode made me cry, and that happened. And then last
My
night...
kid couldn't get into it.
Well,
I showed him like 2 or 3 episodes. He didn't like it.
It's a whole family thing here, not just the little kid. Like the teenagers gather around, we all watch Bluey. So, and I'm not alone. It's not like I found this weird kid show. It is peeking everywhere. Anyway,
Sure, everywhere.
you'll see. Just don't tell my kid about the Paw Patrol movie that's apparently coming to theaters. That is not happening. I'm keeping that a secret for as long as I can.
Troy's gonna be back in theaters again and again and again and again and again.
I say that to establish that no, I'm not into little kid shows. That's not like my genre of choice. Bluey is something that sets itself apart.
You happy with Resident Evil 8?
Yep, absolutely loved Resident Evil 8. Probably loved it even more than Resident Evil 7. I think I mentioned that last time. But yeah, I know you got to watch.
You hadn't finished it by last time, right?
I had.
Oh, you had. Okay.
But if I hadn't, yeah, absolutely love Resident Evil 8. I guessed everything slightly wrong. Like
I know, I was loving it.
This is A and B, and the game's like, no, it's B and A.
Exactly.
Oh, but that's so close.
Yep. Yeah, I was watching the chat between you guys, and I was just loving it. I was like, hey, what do you think about your theory? Did you like that? Did you like what they did?
It actually was really satisfying to be close, but not have completely gotten it, and still got to have a little bit of a twist and surprise in it. It was actually really satisfying. We should talk about the anime, guys.
Okay.
Oh,
all right. Yeah, we watched
an anime to talk about.
Yeah. So again, this is the second half of Jujutsu Kaisen, episodes 14 through 24. So non-spoiler, Jason, what did you think about this half?
It is fun. It is actually really good. The animation's beautiful, especially the fight scenes, which there were a lot of. It's interesting because you can have really beautiful fight scenes, but you don't feel the weight of some of the impacts. They do a really good job in making the audience feel the weight of Itadori's punches. When he hits, like you really feel it watching it. But also, this side of the anime did a really good job with character building. And I think that's really, really necessary for a good shonen to work. It's built on top of its characters, not just its story. This anime is excelling at both. So yeah, it's marketed as a horror anime, and it's not. So like, if I were to give it a score on a horror aspect, it'd be really low. But is this a really good watch? Absolutely. This is definitely a good watch.
how would you compare it to Tokyo Ghoul as far as horror? Would you consider it more horror than Tokyo Ghoul or less? Because that's also a shonen / horror.
Right. I felt there was more consequences in Tokyo Ghoul, but the problem is that Tokyo Ghoul took it from the monster side and not from the monster battler side.
Fair enough.
So it is similar genre as far as like power levels and fights and stuff, but it definitely felt, I was never scared, but it felt more horror-y than this one does.
Okay. All right, Jeremy, what'd you think?
It was funny. It was really, really funny. The action was great. I totally agree with that. The characters did a great job establishing them. I just found myself laughing so much. And it was intentional too. It's not even because of like a shoddy job or anything. It was just that the jokes were landing really, really well. Yeah, I really liked it. I do have a couple of minor complaints, but that's just me. I can probably point at any anime and do that.
There's some Jeremyisms coming.
It's the Jeremyisms, yeah. And I'll hang on to any that are spoilerific, but I would say that even though the anime has already established that there's good reason for talking during fights, I still find the talking to be a little bit too much for my taste. And I know that's a shonen thing. I know it is.
I actually had a thought about that. It was a shower thought. It hit me in the head. I'm like, oh, that's gonna bite them in the butt later. So let's bring that back up in the spoiler section because I do want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And Troy, you watched it in sub as well?
Nope.
No, dub. Dub. Okay. But episode 24 was not dubbed. Is that right?
Not dubbed on HBO Max. I don't know if that means it's not dubbed everywhere or just HBO Max hasn't acquired the dub yet. I don't know. I got the last episode and I was like, I gotta finish this. I don't have time to figure out what's going on. We're watching it with subtitles.
Yeah, no, I looked and they don't have it in dub. So it was a little odd to hear the different characters with different voices, but it didn't take away from the ending at all.
So my thoughts on this half, this was really fun to watch. I think My Hero Academia still resonates with me more on like an emotional level when I'm watching. I get more hype from it. I still don't super connect with the main character on this one. But out of all these episodes we watched, 14 through 24, I think I only count 3 episodes where they're not actively having battles. It was action-packed, like Jeremy pointed out. It is funny, but they're still expanding on characters and lore and story, all while this action is happening. It was a joy to watch. It has these funny clips at the end of every episode that aren't like canon, but just little character building and silly jokes. This works for me. I just don't know if I put it on the pedestal of greatest shonen of all time that I've seen some other people review it as. But I also see why they would. So we'll leave it at that. Your guys' thoughts on the OP and the ED. What'd you think?
OP was fantastic. The song was pretty great. I really loved the visuals were really cool. I don't think they were as storytelling as the first side. So as far as if I was going to rate them, which one's better? I think the first side was better than this one, but I really liked the OP. The ED was actually kind of emotionally hitting. I really loved how you have this moment with Itadori kind of filming on his phone, and then like you see the expressions on his face, like, yeah, this is a moment that I want to capture, and like it was good.
I wanted to talk about that. Something at first I saw the obviously this is an iPhone or a camera shooting this, and I'm like, and then I was like, for some reason that is hitting me directly. That feels very personal. I feel like I connect with that. It got to me. I was like, oh, that's well done for some reason. Oh man.
Yeah, it was a little campy, like as you're watching it, but then it switches to Itadori's face and the drawing on his facial expressions. I'm like, oh, that got me.
All right.
Didn't get me that hard, but I understand. But I think what was going through my head at the end when it showed him and then Now the camera was just getting footage of them all the time. I was like, wait, are we no longer doing that? Who's recording it now? I was confused. But I was really surprised to see that both OPs were in the songs that I was already listening to. So that was really, really cool. I thought they did a good job foreshadowing the things they were going to hit on with the intro. And then the outro was cool. All the things you guys said.
I do still think the intro and outro from the last one were better. I enjoyed them more.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I did like this intro. It touched on a lot of the story beats, and then they made sense once that part of the story came up. Like, oh, okay, I get why we see this. I get why we see this. Mm-hmm. Especially the fact there's a guitar randomly at the end.
Yes.
I'm like, wait, why is there a guitar in this OP?
Who is that? Yeah.
All right, let's go on to our spoiler section now. So we will be talking not only episodes 14 through 24, but we'll be referencing stuff that happened in the last episode. So if you have not seen Jujutsu Kaisen and you are wanting to remain spoiler-free, this would be a good time to hit stop. And then make sure you give us a like and subscribe, whatever we do. But yeah, this is the spoiler warning for here on out. So we start with the beginning of the bad guys talking about a heist that they're basically planning. We see Jogo, the volcano head guy. He's talking with Mojito. One issue I'm kind of having with this anime is bad guys are surviving a little too much for my liking. For we have to exercise and kill these bad guys, and they just don't a lot. But yeah, they basically are like, hey, all those fingers Sakuna's fingers that we let get into the school, it's time to go get them back. And then we come back to our main story. So the two schools in Japan for the Jujutsu sorcerers are about to have their big competition, and we see all these students get together. And after they all meet and start talking, they're like, "Hey, I don't like you. All these, and we're going to talk about a lot of these characters right now. We're about to go through a list of characters, but it starts with Gojo, the superpowered teacher, coming in with a box, and first he gives everyone souvenirs, and he's like, "Oh, I was out of town. Here's souvenirs." And look, guess what's in the box? It's Yuji, the guy we told you was dead. And no one cares.
Well, two did. Yeah. They were pissed.
They're pissed about it. So they're not like, "Yay, you're alive." They're like, "You're alive." And then everyone else is like, "Oh, I didn't know." And the only person who's really concerned is the old principal, Gaku Ganji, is very, very upset that he thought he had this kid killed and he's still alive. But now is a good time to start talking about all of these characters that have met all at the same time, and I have a laundry list of characters, and we're not going to go through them all, just the ones that are kind of relevant to the stories we're going to talk about. But the first is our main character, Yuji Itadori. What do you guys think of Yuji in this half?
I'm really getting attached to him as a character. I thought he was just kind of meh in the first half, because there was so much other things going on that it was fairly in depth. This side, he gets more character building. He is coming to terms with having to deal with the idea that he's going to have to kill some of these hybrids in order to exercise the curse that he's trying to go after, because that's still affecting him. He even has a long conversation with Mai about it. And what?
Not
no.
Yeah, the character you think is Mai is not Mai. The character you think is Mai is Nobara. Mai is the twin sister of Maki who uses a gun.
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking of who again?
Nobara
Simon.
Kugisaki.
Kugisaki.
Yeah, either way, Nobara Kugisaki.
Oh,
in the sub, they
Nobara.
call
okay,
her
there she is. I was like,
Kugisaki
she's not
a
in the
lot.
notes. Oh, there she is.
Yep.
Okay.
No
So,
one
anyways,
tells-
when she's he's talking with Nabarro, trying to deal with this idea that he's got to kill, basically people that have been merged with curses in order to exercise the curse, and also his power level and him learning how to use cursed energy is really intriguing. I'm really digging this character.
So I remember that in the first half of this season, you complained a little bit about how quick he was to master new combat techniques, like jumping around and flying through windows and doing spin kicks and then weapons. How about Black Lightning or whatever that was? Like, I mean, what do you think about the speed that he's now mastered these new techniques that he's been taught?
The Black Flash, it sounded like he learned that particular technique off camera, like before he ran into Toto.
No.
I got the impression.
Oh no, okay, Toto was the one who taught him.
But to clarify, Black Flash is not a different technique than what he was already using. It's a better timed version of what he was already doing. He's speeding up the timing. So Yuji's attack is he punches and then his energy comes rippling through his fist and hits the character a second time. Mm-hmm. In this thing, he gets trained. You need the energy to hit the within a nanosecond of when your punch makes contact. That's what he's improving an already existing technique, not learning a completely new one. Just to clarify.
Yeah, but the degree of like how difficult this technique is to master is that a lot of first rank or first grade sorcerers are not able to do it.
Yes, and he's also not the only character to do it in this.
Yeah,
this Nobara does a Black Flash as well.
But what is a little hand wavy for me is it's very well established that it's not only an oddity, but that he has superhuman strength. And if he's got superhuman abilities beyond cursed energy, stacking on cursed energy techniques that are within his wheelhouse of stuff that he already knows how to do didn't feel too out of place.
I guess it bugged me because what I was seeing was massive power scaling, super fast power scaling.
I think you're misunderstanding what the Black Flash is, maybe, because it's not a technique. It is literally just the timing, and you could get it. You could hit it by luck,
right? But he hit it 3 times in a row, and then I think 4 times in a row.
He tied the world record in this anime.
And the first time he's ever used it, he did that. And so to me, that kind of power scaling to tie the world record in this new art is just and to have it kick him up from unknown power level, where when he faced his first special grade in the first half of the season, he was just getting his butt handed to him, losing fingers and arms and everything. And now he's going up against this creature that's actually the equivalent to multiple fingers in power of Sukuna and fighting it and succeeding and dealing damage and doing this Black Flash thing so many times. I don't know. To me, it just really came across as like they just hit the gas on his power level and he just went to the moon. Like he is crazy powerful compared to where we started the season from, just Super Saiyan levels. And so, I don't know, for me, that kind of took away a little bit from his character because I was kind of already wondering where they were going to go with the power that they already had put him at. But now I'm really confused. But it was also interesting to see him stacked up against some of the other characters like Maki. I really wasn't sure where he stood in comparison to them during some of the tournament arc. But then you really do find out. As far as like his personality and his character development, it was okay. He was funny, but usually it was because of the jokes that were being made on him, and he was kind of the butt of the joke that was like standing there going, "What?"
So Troy, did we even get a tournament arc? Like they promised one, and I didn't see one.
It's not. This is more. This is much more akin with the Naruto shonen exam arc, where the characters are all doing something and then encountering each other. It's very similar to a tournament arc, because they're having individual battles and learning backstories and testing power levels. But it's not technically a tournament. And even though they were like, we're going to, and then Gojo's like, no, baseball.
Yeah. I use that term loosely.
Yeah. For me, one of my issues I had with Yuji is I was like, I don't know how to place him in the shonen characters. He's not he's not dumb like a Goku, and he's not annoying like a Naruto, and I came to terms with he's a simple-minded savant. Like he does have the scene that really sealed it for me is when he does the first Black Flash and he drools.
Yes.
Like he can clear his head and focus to such a level. And so that's why the power spike doesn't bug me. That is literally something what his character personality would fit into for me in the way the power set works. If he is learning new techniques, that would bother me. But if he's just like that thing you do, you just keep getting better at it as long as you're blank-headed, that seems to fit right into his alley. So I'm fine with that. So I did like him better. Again, but he's not Deku. I'm not like, man, this guy pumps me up and wants me to. Nothing about this makes me want to go exercise or get stronger. And that's something that shonen does to me, because this anime is like, you want to get stronger? Learn to control your feelings. Watch a lot of movies. And, while I love that because I love watching movies, it doesn't fire me up. And that is missing in this shonen for me, and especially with Yuji. Like, he is not a hype machine for me like a lot of shonen characters are.
Yeah, actually, you make a good point. There was no point in this anime, the first half or this half, that made me give me similar emotional payoff of when All Might hits Blue Dude to the moon. Like that fight there was not such a payoff, but also it had such an emotional beat. This went in a little bit of a different direction, and we'll get to it, but it was definitely more, I don't know, not down to earth, but like just, I don't know, maybe the emotional payoff wasn't there.
And not necessarily in a bad way, but again, when I come to shonen anime, and I'm judging this as a shonen anime because as a regular anime, it has all the shonen trappings that kind of ruin regular stories. So I have to judge it as a shonen anime, and that is something I come to shonen anime for, is that hype. And this just doesn't have that emotional hype machine built in to me. All right. Other characters that are also there. We have Megumi Fushiguro, dark, silent, brooding type.
And Psycho.
Jeremy, what'd you think of him?
I still really like this character. He's got so much more underneath the shell of what he's actually showing, and that's really cool, especially when you have these dark brooding characters. Sometimes that's kind of all they are for a really long time, and you just get so bored with them. But we got to see a little bit of who he really is in two different ways. we saw a little bit of like background where he's kind of just disgusted with everybody, and he's got his own weird reasons to be disgusted with everybody, but like nobody can measure up to the ideals that he has in his own head. And that's really fascinating, because that's not something that I saw in him in the first half. I never would have suspected that he had that kind of personality. It's a little bit of like a naive ego, is what I would call it. And then the second time that we see a totally different aspect to his personality, where he goes like, let it all go berserk, go psycho. And I absolutely loved that side of him. It was really cool. But he was also, even when he was in his sort of more toned down attitude, he was still really entertaining. You got to see that little subtleties of how other people were affecting his mood that I don't know if I just missed them in the first half of the season, or if they actually started adding them because maybe people were starting to get to him more. But a little bit of subtlety there. It was nice.
What did you think, Jason?
He was definitely very one note up until halfway through the second half. And then you had this character explosion with him, where not only do we get to learn a bit more backstory about him, that everyone at his middle school is terrified of him. But, as good as he is with martial arts, like, everyone else seems to be just a little better at him physically. But he is definitely the more cunning and the more strategic of the group. And he does it in interesting ways because, you know, a lot of times you can just have very hand wavy character moments in anime where it's just like, oh, I thought of this thing. Da, 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 da. And it's like, okay, that was dumb. this, this is very smart in the way he does it. And sometimes it doesn't work, or sometimes it just doesn't work the way he wants it to, and it doesn't win him the battle. And I think that's really smart writing on their part. And yeah, his final battle in this is fantastic.
Mhm.
Just because a lot of times you push these characters to a point where they're like, I'm going to do what I need for my ideals and I'll die for it. This was, I'm pushed up against the wall, but I'm not going to die for this. And I thought that was cool because that's not what we normally get. And because of, like, that particular like personal power boost was neat.
Or at least, like, I'm not going to deliberately use a technique that will kill me to win this.
I'm not going to commit suicide, but I'm going to go all out.
Yeah.
He's fun as the stoic, quiet type, don't bother me as we go through the story. And then we get to those final episodes and he has that explosion of backstory and actual character expression. And we get to see like the real him. In the first half, Junpei, I thought they were setting up for a rival, almost a Sasuke from Naruto type character, right? Someone who I'm endeared with, but he's joined the wrong team. And now, and obviously that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at Megami like, oh, because he's like, I hate bad people, but I also hate good people for putting up with bad people. And I'm like, is that just a sociopath? Are you gonna be evil?
Everybody?
But by the end of this anime, I'm like, you are the most interesting character to me in this whole anime. And he has a lot of very close to almost a main character, issues. And I'm gonna surpass you. I'm gonna be your rival. That kind of stuff. And it's like, man, you could almost be the main character. And that's where I get the, are you gonna be the Sasuke of this story? But if not, that's fine. They've set him up to go with in a lot of different directions, and it's very interesting to see what they're setting up and what he'll do. I think he's the most interesting character at this point.
I'd agree with that. I love that what Sukuna said to him in the first half of "Why did you run?" is continuing to bug him throughout the whole anime, and that's just kind of picking at him at the back of his brain. I thought that was neat.
That's another thing. The fact that Sukuna is so into this guy. He's sitting in the body of one guy, but he's like, no, I want to know what that shadow guy's doing. And like, he's paying more attention to his fights than to Yuji's fights.
Yeah, he's actually at the end of that fight. He's like, yeah, that's what I wanted to see. That was
good,
awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, very interesting character. All right. Next up, Satoru Gojo, the super overpowered god of the planet, teacher of freshmen. Wears a blindfold or sunglasses at all time because his eyes are just too pretty for the world. What do you guys think of him now?
He didn't get enough screen time because I love this character so much. He actually ends up getting backseated a bit because we have so many other characters to go through. But we get another taste of his power, and he's just a powerhouse of a sorcerer, and no wonder the bad guys are like, yeah, we can't kill him. We have to contain him. And we have no idea how we're going to do that. So, and also he's just the coolest dad ever.
That's right.
Yeah. He's interesting. I have a love-hate relationship with him. I like him for all the reasons you guys have said, and it's really cool whenever you see somebody who's that powerful do things. It's spectacular. It's really cool. But at the same time, he doesn't seem to display the scars of getting that power. So his personality seems so relaxed and so almost Mary Sue-ish. Like, there's got to be a dude term for it. I know there's a dude term. I've heard it before. And that's just the sense I'm getting from him, is like, he's just the solution. If there's ever a problem, Deus Ex Machina Man can show up and fix it. And that, I understand that is kind of acknowledged in the anime as, he is Deus Ex Machina. We are going to have to tie him up. That is the whole point of him. I get that, but I don't like having that in a story very much. So I don't know.
Well, fortunately, they haven't abused it.
No, I'd agree with that.
I do, but I completely agree with Jeremy. On one hand, I'm like, this is a really, honestly, ballsy choice to have a character who can literally defeat anything you throw at him, and so you have to constantly factor that into your storytelling, because literally there's all this trouble going on, and then literally as soon as he arrives, it's over, everything's done, he's taking care of it, he's omnipotent. It's like having Goku be Super Saiyan 3 when Raditz showed up, and then trying to make the Dragon Ball story still work. It's brave, but man, it worries me. It's like you have to kill this character at some point to put stakes back into the game. The only thing that kind of keeps him grounded is that he is literally against everyone. Not only is he against the curses, but he is against the Jujutsu politics of the world as well. So it's literally just him against everything. But
and
he worries me. But I love
Gojo's shield.
Right?
Yeah,
but
just keep him out.
I also I love every scene he's in though. So like he's a great character. I absolutely adore him. But yeah, I completely get where Jeremy's coming from, because he worries the heck out of me. But
there's also a certain something about his lightheartedness. Like usually when you have characters that are that powerful in a world where nobody else is, they have baggage, they have scars. Like they had to pay something to get where they are, and that sits on their shoulders like a little demon screaming in their ear, right? So I don't see that with him. Huh?
Kind of like the business guy.
Exactly. Like that's the kind of personality that I would expect to have so much power. So that either means that he doesn't have the baggage, he doesn't have the scars, which makes him kind of a hollow character. He's just like this anomaly where his perception of the world is going to be so naive and distorted because he's so powerful and thinks he can fix everything. So why stick to tradition? Why do things the old way? And, it just makes him kind of weird. Or if he does have the baggage and he does have the scars, he just hides it really, really well. And if they do reveal that at some point, that could make a really compelling version of him. But right now, that's another aspect of him that just bugs the heck out of me.
So, I said I was gonna tease you about this, and I'm not really going to, Jeremy. but a big aspect of Jujutsu Kaisen is that belief. Belief plays a big part, especially in the power levels. Like the more a curse is believed in, the more powerful it is. The more the giant evil bad guys we've seen we all have a fear of nature, right? There's just that's huge, so that the enemy is that huge. So the question with Gojo, is he cocky because he's strong, or is he strong because he's cocky?
Oh my gosh. Well, but then the question becomes if that's all it takes.
Right. But maybe he's the only one who's figured that out. And I'm just throwing that out there. I think it's more because there's also you got to have inner energy and all this other stuff. But belief does seem to play a big part into it. And he does seem to really believe that he's the best there is. And that seems to work out for him.
Yeah, that's true.
And like you said, he doesn't have those scars of I had to work for this power. It's just kind of maybe he just figured out, if I just believe I'm the best there is, I will be.
I like that solution, actually. I like that solution. I don't think it stands up under scrutiny, but I like it.
Yeah. I think you're right. All right. And then, our country girl shoots nails. Nobara Kugasaki. She definitely gets a little more screen time, a little more time. What'd you guys think?
She didn't get a lot of development. I don't think she got a decent amount of screen time, but I don't think she had much of an arc throughout this whole story. She's definitely still the kind of hot-headed, stubborn, I can do it, girl power kind of girl. But she's bad action. Holy crap! Her power is not particularly amazing, but she uses it really well. And actually, one of my favorite parts of this entire anime is her use of her power at the very end. Um, I think it's got a very well-rounded strategic value to it, and her teamwork is some of the better teamwork throughout the anime. So
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. That there's one particular scene where like she's arguing with a cute little blonde girl who, and I say cute because that's like her own definition too. Like it's important to her. Um, and they're arguing about exactly that, you know, you be strong, be cute, et cetera, et cetera. And she just cracked me up because she's like, I'm gonna be bold. I can be bold. I was like, okay, I like this character. She's really entertaining. This is cool.
If you've met my wife, you'll know that I'm a man who loves a big sass. I love sassy women, and she will give everyone the business end a mouthful about what is wrong with them, whether they're your friends or your enemy. I love Nobara. I even love the nails. They just always make them. It's just hitting nails through the air, but it looks so cool, and they're just hovering in front of her. And she's winding up, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be cool. My favorite line from her though is when she goes, you know, I only have so many seats in my heart to care about people, and that's what I'm gonna care about. And I'm just not. I can't take. There's no point in hurting myself caring about outside of that. But sometimes there are people who bring their own seat and force their way in.
I love that.
I love that line. Both about her friendship with Yuji and Megumi. So yeah, I am into the trio of Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara. I think they are a great trio, and I do think she rounds them out. And yeah, I love her, and she has some of the best bits in the comedy scenes too. So I'm a big Nobara.
You drop any of those, and you're dead.
Yep. Post-credit scenes, gotta watch them. They're really good.
Yes, I didn't write most of them down, but they were all delightful.
Yep.
Even the one where they're like, "This isn't very funny." Yeah, we're running out of jokes. We don't know what to do.
Oh yeah, where Panda's like, "That was forced." I know. We don't have anything else to do. We ran out of ideas.
The fourth wall for you. All right. Speaking of Panda, guys, we gotta talk about Panda, the panda.
Panda, not Panda.
He has some not Panda scenes. What did you guys think of Panda? Now that we know who he is.
I'm so confused because you know, just to put it out on the table, Panda is 3 souls in one of what they call corpse puppeting.
Mm-hmm.
But in the body of a real panda, right?
Is it?
I didn't get that impression.
That's the problem. It's never really explained because most of the corpse puppeting that we see is from somebody says together something man-made. And there's scenes when he turns into his other form where it looks like they're stitching at the seams where his leg meets his and he's got stuffing in his ear when it's ripped. So how did he go from a baby to a full-size panda? Was he continually stitched into a bigger body as he grew up? I'm so confused with this character. But
yeah,
all that aside, one of the cooler characters, it just as far as concept, because you've got I liked that he could, you know, hide where his souls were in his body because they are physically present in his body and can be shot at. But then also like each one manifests and gives him different powers. That was pretty cool. But also like his personality is amazing.
Oh yeah, Panda's awesome. I really like Panda a lot. That character is just entertaining. He comes at it from a completely different perspective. I mean, in any game where you have some kind of like summoner or conjurer who has a series of minions under their control, you just take one and make it just like everybody else. Like imbue it with life. What's it going to be like for it? How is it going to experience life? What is it going to think of it? And I thought that was fascinating. Again, it's just another analogy for a robot coming to life, and it's so different, and how, of course, I'm going to like it. Duh. But I really like Panda. All of his little character, the interesting parts about his character and what he can change into, that's really cool too. I love that they held back some of it by taking out the older sister core.
Yeah, we
right
don't
at the
know what
beginning.
his,
We don't know
his
what
other animal is.
Yeah, so he's really cool.
Well, last thing, I love who they pit him against, because it kind of brings out both the story.
Yeah.
But I loved his line of, "I've never been jealous of humans because I'm comfortable with who I am." I thought that was brilliant coming from him.
That's what I was going to say. One of the reasons I love him so much is that he is comfortable with who he is. We have this basically a Frankenstein's monster among the characters, and he's like, but he's like, no, you're all the freaks.
Yes,
I'm perfectly comfortable. I'm perfectly comfortable with myself, and everything you guys do is weird. And there's a confidence in that makes him stand out and makes him a character you want to follow, makes him a good leader for the group. So when I found out he was like, oh, I'm just a doll or a corpse, I'm like, oh, I guess that's a little disappointing. But no, he doesn't disappoint me. He just because he's cool with it.
I did think the principal's creation too.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I did think they were going to keep it a secret, because at one point Yuji's asking about everyone. He asked about Toge, the guy with the word power, and they tell him about Toge, and then he asked about Panda, and they're like, "We don't have time for all your questions." And I'm like, "Oh, this anime is just never going to acknowledge it. It's just going to always be a panda." And then we had a panda fight, and so the backstories had to come out. I think I would have preferred it the other way, but I still like I still love Panda.
I do have to say the panda fight was one of the, like, up to that point, that was one of the coolest things I had seen. I don't know. I've never seen a panda with, boxing knuckle dusters punching. That was just really cool. He tackles him. I don't know. That was something else.
Yep. All right, Maki. He can't see spirits, wears special glasses, is the weapon master basically of the group. What do you guys think of her? And kind of goes with her twin sister as well.
Yeah. It had a very reminiscent feel to why'd you leave me? Why couldn't you stay here with me? Kind of feel that we got in
Higurashi?
Not only Higurashi, but it also felt very much like the anime where they float around, they kill the monsters, but it was really like
a video game.
Yeah, a video game for the digital people.
Decadence.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt very much that relationship of why couldn't you have been a servant with me and been happy? And she's just stoic about it. Been like, I would basically want to kill myself if I had stayed. And you could see it in her. She has ambition. She has goals. She has a high standard for herself, and it comes out in her fight scenes. I love she's going up against Sword Girl, and she's like, "Oh, well, I need to close the distance. I'll just snap my weapon in half." I thought that was brilliant, and I love that because she doesn't do it. Doesn't she can't use cursed energy. She's just amazing with martial weapons. I think that's a brilliant gig for her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's pretty cool. I like that she also has some kind of like birth curse to explain why she's so powerful. That whole breaking of the staff just reminded me of like a Rurouni Kenshin scene where he's going up against somebody who's got shorter swords, and it's super fast because of the short sword, so he like grips the blade to fight the person. It's always cool when they do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like Maki and Mai's relationship, but I think the reason I put her in here is because she brings in this political intrigue of the world that we hadn't really got before. That there's these clans and bloodlines, and basically, if you're born a powerful male sorcerer, awesome for you. If not, get in the servants' quarters. Yeah, your family, but you're washing dishes.
Also with like Megumi.
Yeah, and the
being
fact
used as like a bargaining chip.
Yeah, so we find out Megumi is included in this. There's another character in the other school.
Mm-hmm.
He's involved in it. His mother was like a prostitute that they used to create him, and now he's like, I want to save my mom, so I have to become this powerful, high-standing member of the family so I can do that. It creates all these different motivations, and then there's Maki, who's like, I'm gonna take this freaking family over.
Yeah.
So again, another character that could also be their own main character, that I found really compelling. So that's why I wanted to touch on her. So, and then I guess it's time to talk about Best Boy, Aoi Toto. What did you guys think of?
Yeah, exactly.
Last time we mentioned him a little bit, we were like, he's kind of weird. He's a little funny, and he just steals the whole dang show. So let's talk about him.
I love that he's at his core. He's definitely looking to make Jujutsu sorcerers the best they can be. I think that's really at his core. The only thing more important is the idol that he worships.
Exactly. As in, like,
A pop idol.
teenage girl pop idol. Yes.
Like, he tells the, like, one of the top leaders to F off is because he's not going to miss the live. It's like, you could tape it. He's like, I am taping it, and I'm going to watch it live. You think I'm an amateur?
There's even a scene where, like, Itadori is like, I don't know who that is, and I'm not interested in some idol or something like that. He's like, you know who she is, because you knew she was an idol.
That reminds me of back when like the prequel Star Wars trailers would drop, right? And it'd be like, I had to go home to watch it. Aren't you gonna tape it? I am taping it, and I have to watch it live too. I get that level of fandom.
Yep.
But his role in increasing Itadori's power is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. It's got this very much I'm gonna punch you into friendship kind of relationship. And like Itadori kind of gives very like surface level answer to what's your favorite woman, and that just makes Toto's brain explode of
it's
like we are best friends, which then
answer.
we get an entire backstory that doesn't exist.
Yes, I love that.
But yeah, like I watched this episode and I texted Troy. I was like, "Did we just become best friends?" So my favorite moment with this character is he got this huge grin on his face and he's going down to the ground because he's just been trounced by Itadori, and Itadori sees another opening. He's like, oh, he found another opening. He's gonna hit me again. I'm so proud of him. Yeah, this is a great character.
Yep. And then he like snaps out of that and literally stops the blow with his forehead and just stands up and is like, wrong! Like, echoes through the whole forest just because he doesn't like the technique he's using. Just fascinating. Absolutely love this character. This was the majority of my laughter in like the first probably 2/3 of this second half of the season was just because of him. Like, there's a scene where they're fighting a very powerful enemy. It's the forest creature from before, the forest curse, and he's literally like dancing around it, and it looks like dancing because he's doing the flamingo dance clap, because that's part of his technique, is that it's required to clap. But he's gonna do it with style and flair and panache because, you know, why not? That's just
Pursed
him.
lips.
Yeah, pursed lips and everything. It's so great. I mean, they're fighting this foe that is so serious and deadly and lethal, and to him doing that, it's almost like he's mocking it while he's doing it. But you know he's not. He's doing it because he's so into it. Loved him for that. He's uber sincere.
Right. He's a character who's 100% into everything he's doing. What he's doing, he is doing it at 100% all the time.
Exactly.
And he's you know, I remember talking about him last time. I remember when the question came up. He asked Megami, you know, what kind of woman do you like? And we were all kind of like, I guess he's gonna be one of those characters.
Yeah.
Man, he just comes in and steals that show.
Mm-hmm.
The whole fake backstory. Their fight is so beautiful, but he is a delight, and he is clearly he's got to be a fan favorite. So I'm a big fan of Toto. All right, now we can actually go on to story. And to be honest, a lot of the story that we're about to cover is, and then they fought. And when I say that, it's beautiful. They're almost always beautiful. You know, there's some that obviously got more budget, more climactic battles, but all the fights are really cool. But there are a lot of episodes that are just characters fighting in this. So I'll try to touch on some highlights, but there's just going to be a lot of, and then they fought. All right, so yeah, everyone is reunited now, and they're told that the competition is a curse hunt race. Basically, there's one super supposed to be tier 2. We find out later they snuck in a tier 1 that's specifically going to kill Yuji. That they have to go hunt that down. But there's other curses for points that they can get, and the two teams are all going to go out into the area and hunt these down. And they're told to wait till noon. So Yuji kind of catches up with everyone, and they're like, "Oh, well, we had a plan, but now that you're here, you can help with that plan." Meanwhile, the old principal guy is telling his school, "You guys got to go kill Yuji. Forget about the race. Forget about everything. I need you to go kill that guy. He's got Sukuna in him. That's Sukuna's vessel. That can't be allowed." And they're all like, "Yes," except for Todo, who's like, "I'm gonna do what I want." Like this.
What I want right now is my idol.
Yeah, and he wants to go watch his idol, and he's just not really down with the dishonorable method of what's happening. No,
I do like that the blue-haired girl that we saw from earlier, who's into
Miwa.
Gojo.
You're talking about Miwa.
Miwa.
I absolutely love Miwa.
She's awesome. She's awesome. How she was like, I don't really want to do this, guys. This isn't good. But she never stands up for it. It's still funny.
He was kind of pathetic, but lovable because of it anyway.
She even calls herself Useless Miwa.
I'm useless Miwa here. All right. And then the only other thing is the teacher Iori, who's the teacher for the other school, talks with Gojo. You can't say they have a contested relationship because everyone is like this with Gojo. Gojo obviously just annoys everybody, but he clearly annoys her as well. But he tells her he thinks there might be a spy in the Jujutsu schools that is working for the enemies because of stuff that's been happening. Then the race begins. The two teams head out, and our school, the Tokyo school, they all run into Todo right away. And he's like, "Yes, I'm going to take you all on." And then Yuji comes in and takes him on. And that was the strategy. Yuji, you just need to distract the big guy, and then we'll go out and do the mission.
I love how they had zero time to train with him. So they're like, we have no idea if you're going to be useful or not. So why don't you tie up the most dangerous person on the other team?
Yeah.
Be the decoy.
I did think it was kind of cool that it was based on the reference from Megami, who Todo has punched several times, saying, "Yeah, use him for that."
Yeah, he's going to be a good in the fight. Todo, beats on him a little bit, and then, but Yuji manages to get up. He almost gets knocked out, but he gets back up, and Todo asks him the question. We've kind of already referenced this, but he's like, "Hey, what kind of woman do you like?" "I like a woman with a tall woman with a big booty like Jennifer Lawrence." And this is when Todo starts crying, and he's like, "Oh my!" And he has in this whole imaginary sequence of them going to middle school and being best friends, and Yuji supporting him and his love for idols. And he's like, "We are best friends," and Yuji's like, "What? We're what?" And then all the other students from the other school come back to attack Yuji and start trying to kill him. He's able to dodge for a little bit, and then Todo's like, "I said if you get in my way, I'd kill you." And he starts knocking around his own team. So they retreat. They're like, "Okay, we can't mess with Todo. Hopefully he'll do the job." And they leave, and then the other school attacks them. And we find out they all figured out, hey, where's the other team? Did they go to kill Yuji? We need to go back.
I did love when they first attacked Yuji that Todo switches him places with someone, but we don't know that's his power. It's just all of a sudden he switched and there's no explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So Megami attacks the little blonde girl Momo on the.
So yeah,
we left the page with all the character names. Yeah, it's Momo. She's the scout for the other team, so she's attacked by the bird, and then Panda and Nobara chase her into a tree basically and are trying to shake her out.
Go down and play.
And Maki starts fighting Miwa, useless Miwa, in a sword versus spear battle. And then Toto starts training Yuji. He's basically like, "Hey, your Divergent Fist, it's cool. You know, you hit me and then I get hit a second time, but that ain't gonna work on special types.
Great.
Special grade."
Mm-hmm.
Special grade curses, and you're over reliant on that. You think Neo fighting Morpheus in the training session where he fights a little bit is like, no, that technique's all wrong. Except for Toto is very emotional about it. Why are you using such a pathetic technique?
Yeah.
Come on, best friend. But as the fighting's happening, Yuji is learning from it and is improving and understanding his. And actually, Toto takes the time to explain, you're thinking of your energy wrong. You need to think of it as something that's all through your body and all the time and like properly visualize it so you can use it better. And that helps Yuji, and they end up being able to fight toe to toe with each other.
So was Satoru Gojo wrong? Because he told Yuji that Divergent Fist is great and that what he had there was a wonderful tool and just use that. He never made an indication that there would be an easy way for him to get to Black Flash.
Well, it sounded like Gojo was encouraging him to get better because not only was it difficult for other Jujutsu sorcerers to master the Divergent Fist, but I don't think Gojo was ready to start sending him against special grades.
Yeah, I think, again, Black Flash isn't the attack. Black Flash is what happens with the attack. So I still think he's using Divergent Fist and that he's hitting and then pushing his energy in. Black Flash is when he's nailing the timing of it. Instead of hit energy coming in, it's hit and energy at the same time.
Yeah, because they made it sound like when you do a Black Flash, you're entering the zone and like you become like hyper focused.
That's if you get it, you get to go into the zone.
Yeah,
but that's not what Black Flash is.
Yeah, so here's what happens, based on the way I was understanding it, is Divergent Fist was happening because of where he was pulling his chi from. He thought his chi had to circulate out from the inside, from his core, his belly, right? And so it was taking a long time because he had such poor control of his chi and he couldn't pull his chi out, his cursed energy. He couldn't send it out fast enough for it to actually get there. And that, well, yes, technically we're talking about cursed energy getting to the point of the fist making impact. It's the source location that's different when it comes to the Black Flash. What Toto was telling him is that it doesn't just come from your belly, basically. Just take it from everywhere. And so that's kind of a completely different approach to the idea of how to use and where cursed energy comes from. So if that's what you have to do in order to get it to land at the same time within like a nanosecond of your impact, even though it's not a technique, I'm doing air quotes, a technique, it's such a different paradigm of curse energy functionality that it kind of seems like a different technique. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you may not be calling it one, but you're doing something that's so fundamentally different that it might as well be.
And I could see how it does kind of clash with what Gojo has said up to this point, right? Why hasn't Gojo mentioned this and stuff? Exactly. I kind of just wrote it off as like Yuji wasn't ready for that. Whereas Toto is like, no, you're learning this now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, so while they keep fighting, then we get the fight between is it Ultimate Mechamaru? Ultimate Mechamaru, also known as Mechamaru, versus Panda, which is they're still chasing Momo up in the tree, and he gets blasted with a laser beam that hits him below the shoulder, yeah. Mm-hmm. But clearly damages him. So Mechamaru is for the other school, and he looks like a robot. And Panda even comes up and is like, "Oh, you're like me. We were made." This, like we talked about, Panda he's artificial. He has cursed souls in him that make him alive. And Mechamaru's like, "No, I ain't like you." And we find out he's actually a guy who's born with one arm, and constant pain, can't see light, or it hurts his eyes, and he sits in a bathtub full of wires that he sends out cursed energy through to remote control the Mechamaru body. He's a mech driver, but he's heavily bandaged and not having a good life.
Yeah, he said even moonlight would basically burn his skin, is what he was saying. He's so sensitive.
And
but
they have
computer light, LED lights, okay.
And they have a battle where basically Mechamaru blasts him a couple times, and Panda changes into his gorilla feral form, where he's better at close range attacks, and then beats up the robot.
Panda, not Panda.
When he destroys the Mechamaru body, he's like, "Hey, we could hang out sometime. We could be friends. Also, I'm taking your phone." Which is very important. I was like, "Oh, that's kind of a weird thing to take his phone," but then later, "Oh, that was a very important strategy." So he takes his phone from him, and that battle was over.
You'd think that the guy in the bathtub would have a communications device
On his own, and not in his robot body.
Not in his robot body.
I love that the little short about all the girls treating him like a robot butler, and he's like,
"Yeah,
I'm real. I don't do jobs for you.
We're counting on you."
Then we come back to Mika fighting Miwa. Miwa doesn't stand a chance. She is a sword specialist and is just nowhere on Maki's level. Maki wipes the floor with her and steals her sword and then runs off with it to use in other battles.
And then breaks it.
Everybody gets broke. Yeah, so Miwa does not do good. And then Nobara fights with Momo. And basically Momo is like a Mai fangirl, the twin sister with a gun. And Nobara is a Maki fangirl. That's her senpai. She is a big fan of her. And they're arguing about the political. She's like, "You don't know how hard Mai had it." Well, Maki came from the same family, so she must have had it just as hard. And Momo obviously can fly on her broomstick. And Nobara gets a piece of the straw of the broom, puts it into one of the dolls, and sends her crashing to the ground. And then instead of beating her to death with a real hammer, because this isn't to the death, she takes out a toy rubber hammer and starts beating her with it.
And what appears to be a shot off the side through her brain. It's just a rubber bullet.
Yep.
She gets shot by a rubber bullet from Mai, who then Maki shows up to fight Mai, and they have a really cool battle. I love that they kept Mai's thing a secret. So she fires all 6 bullets in her guns, and then Maki starts rushing her. And Maki is clearly the superior fighter, has been dominating the fight. But Mai's thing is she can create basically any objects from her curse energy. And she does this by creating 1 bullet. She can do 1 bullet a day. That's all she's able to do right now. So she has a 7th bullet in the gun, and she shoots it right at Maki. And Maki catches the darn thing
in her hand.
Yeah,
Jesus
and they say
Christ.
she has a heavenly contract. Yeah, so that gives her superhuman strength. So she's not just a girl really good with weapons. She has some, which is weird because we already have a superhuman character who no one has mentioned why the superhuman character, and no one said, "Hey, maybe that's one of the things that could have given him." Should we talk about that? No.
Yeah.
No, we should.
Also,
have
the
we
bathtub
explained what
guy
a
has
heavenly?
it too.
Have we explained what a heavenly pact is?
Do I don't understand what it is. If you want to tell me,
I don't either. That's why I wanted to.
Okay.
So here's what I understood it to be: is you're born with some kind of great power, and then you have a great cost to pay in return. So for the bathtub guy, the great power was he's got a massive amount of energy output, but all of that horrible physical mangling. For Maki, it's she's got fantastic physical capabilities, but she can't see cursed things, and she doesn't really have any cursed energy. So it's like a magnification of one. It's like min-maxing. They've been min-maxed.
Yeah, and so those two are like a really
like Path of Exile.
opposite.
There you go.
I've never
They're
heard
one
of
of
that
your
game.
builds.
I've never heard of
If only someone would mention it every episode.
He's just counting the dollars coming in from the Path of Exile dev team.
She basically we get a flashback of them also growing up in the Zeni clan. And Mai was always seeing these evil spirits and was always scared, and so Maki, who can't see him, so she's not scared of anything, was her support. And then as an older young woman, Maki declares, I'm taking over this group, so I'm leaving to go to Jujutsu High. I'm going to become super powerful. I'm going to come back and I'm going to take over this dang family. And so they're like, Mai, you have to go too. And Mai is like, no, that sounds terrifying. I'm scared of all that. I don't want to go. And that's why she hates her older sister. She's forced to live in this terrifying world and be this terrifying warrior. Doesn't want to be.
Now, I'm not 100% sure that the family center, or if she made herself go because of Maki.
Like she couldn't. I don't know if she
unclear.
had to be a sorcerer, but it did feel like she couldn't stay if Maki wasn't going to stay. Like if your twin sister is exiled, you're exiled.
It sounded more like. So the conversation went like, if you're leaving, I'm going to make your sister's life a living hell. And she's like, my sister has nothing to do with it. And I think probably what happened is, to avoid living a life of absolute misery, she also went to school to get away.
Makes sense.
We'll talk about that later. Okay. Then we jump over to Megami fighting Kamo. Kamo is another member. I think this is Zenin clan as well, or at least one of the clans. And he's the one whose mother was a prostitute, and so he's trying to raise up in status so he can save her. And he has blood control, so he puts like blood inside of his arrows, and he's able to steer his arrows. I feel like we've seen the character recently who could do this.
There's the fire guy was one. He like imbued his bullets with fire.
Yeah, that's right.
And he guide him around.
But also, he can basically dope himself and give himself a boost of strength and speed. So he's fighting Megami, and Megami's blocking the arrows, and then he comes in for close range. He starts kicking Megami's butt at close range too, and Megami has sticks, basically. I forget what they're called.
Big night sticks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My favorite thing about this character is that he has thrown weapons that are just blood transfusion bags.
Yeah, he'll cover you in his blood, and then he can do what he wants to you.
It's awesome.
Megami battles him for a while, and then Megami's like, hey, here's my new summon. It's an elephant. And blast him with a huge amount of water from the elephant, and then hits him with his electricity bird. And all this is, they're having a really good battle. And then Hanami shows up. Hanami is that forest curse. We've already seen him.
Her. It's such a weird creature.
It's a female voice actor for sure, but they do call him.
But even in the post-credit scene, she's in a dress.
Yeah, that's true.
And is like pining over the volcano guy.
I'm not even sure if curses even have genders.
I totally agree.
Right.
I just think it's funny. Like they're definitely playing with us.
Right. Yeah. So, any thoughts on this villain, who's kind of our villain of the series, or this half?
I really enjoy a good forest spirit creature. And
Put that on a shirt. I really enjoy a good forest spirit creature.
Right. And this one does a really good job with it. In fact, that's why they say like the protection around the school should have kept out any cursed spirits, but because Hanami can hide within as a spirit, was able to pass through instead of a curse. But I like Hanami's abilities. I think Hanami as a curse is interesting, that like, very tropey, the earth would be so much better without humans.
Yeah.
So but the fights are beautiful. And I love how like all three of the sorcerers here are just like, actually, it's just time to run.
Yeah, it was really interesting to me because At first, I thought maybe it could be reasoned with. Just the way Hanami has comported himself, whatever, has been so subdued and almost gentle in its demeanor with humans that it's encountered, and even jujutsu warriors that it's counted, or sorcerers that it's encountered. And so I was really curious when it first showed up. I thought, oh, okay, is it gonna go straight to fighting? It's not really, right? It's gonna argue with him. So seeing it slowly like explain its way toward why it was going to fight them was really cool. I really like this character.
I think it was the trees coming out of the eyes is a really
yeah.
cool, creepy touch. I was a little disappointed that because he has this thing wrapped around his left one of the shoulders, and when he pulls it off, it's just another arm, and I was like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. And I was hoping for like wavy tentacles or something creepy.
But it has a big, beautiful red rose or tulip or something.
I did mess up this character's intro. This is not where it first shows up. It's so first off, we see Miwa, and she gets a phone call from Ekamaru. She answers it, and it's Toge. Toge is the trump card of the Tokyo team, because hey, he tells you to do something, you have to do it, and he's just calling them and telling them go to sleep. So Miwa's out. She's out of the game. She's asleep. But then the cursed spirit that the old principal had let out, that was made to kill Yuji, starts coming around a tree, and we see him all like, oh no, and then its head just falls. Mm-hmm. And Hanami has killed it. And I was like, oh, I forgot the bad guys were coming. This was a great intro.
Yep.
And then, so when it gets to Megumi and Kamo, it's already chasing Toge, who looks at them and goes, run. And they're compelled. They have to run because he told them to. And so all three of them are now running away from Hanami, who starts attacking. That was a great sequence of events. Yeah. I loved it. Realizing that something's gone wrong, the teachers decided to go head in to investigate.
That's right. Right as the
coat rack guy
that one is killed, like all the cameras, all the visual birds and stuff that other user was using, all those feeds went out.
Braid face. Love that.
Money grubber. We call her Mrs. Krabs.
Yeah, yes. She has her hair, her bangs are braided, and it just falls down in front of her face. Yep. It just cracked me up every time I saw her on screen.
And she just laughs maniacally, like, hey, just pay me money.
So there's a evil spirit user. So now we actually learned that there's not just the one guy with the stitches on his head that is a human bad guy with the spirit. There are now also evil spirit users, and one of them is there to turn Kojo into a coat rack. That's his ultimate dream. There's a blonde one there too that we only see for like a minute. Anyway, the coat rack guy, he makes a barrier, a veil, yes, a veil over the area, and the teachers get to it, and it won't let Gojo in, but it'll let everyone else in. It's an anti-Gojo veil, and he's like, "Well, that's interesting." So the old man and the other teacher go inside, and the old man, he's the one with the guitar. He pulls out an electric guitar. That's how he fights. And suddenly the OP just made a lot more sense. I was like, oh. Yep. Even though I thought I was going to reverse time because of what the OP does, because it plays backwards after he strums the guitar. Yes. So this is here's how we keep Gojo out of the story so it doesn't resolve instantly.
Yep.
So we have Megumi and Togo and Kamo all running. They're basically working in tandem. Toge can slow it down for a moment, right? The word stop will affect it for a second, but eventually it actually tears up his throat, and he tries one last time, like commands it to go away, and it goes flying, but blood spurts out of his mouth. But then Megami team Maki shows up and she helps Megami, and he has the ability to reach into like a shadow realm where he's stored all their weapons and pulls out her strongest weapon. She hits Hanami in the tree face, and they end up in a riverbed fighting, and they both get injured, even though they do some damage, but they both end up getting injured. And Megami actually has like roots, a plant growing out of his body, and every time he uses curse energy, it gets bigger. So he has to dispel his summons, and he's getting ready to save her anyways because she's in the grip, and she's like, "Nope, we're tapping out." And Todo and Yuji arrive. So basically now everyone's working together. Momo is flying the injured out, and guys, there's a lot of great scenes in this anime, but this one got me. I watched the scene twice. It got me twice. Panda comes and he takes Megami. And he takes Maki, and he turns, and he starts running away, and he goes, Pandash. He doesn't change speed. Nothing happens. He just jogs slowly away, and it gets me every time. That's a very funny joke. In a shonen where you always call out your attack to yell out something and just nothing happens. Very funny. Then we get basically Yuji and Todo taking the sun, and Todo's like, "Hey, hit it with a black flash, or I'm not helping. I'll let you die. I don't care. You use a black flash,
Even though we're best friends.
yeah, he's like best friend. I will let you die." Yuji goes at first asks, do you know Mahito, the Stitch curse? And he gets really mad and attacks it and gets a chance to hit it and fails to do a black flash. And
Misses completely, right?
I know that he hit, but just
he
doesn't do anything.
He even like tapped into the rage and anger of seeing Megami hurt and remembering the death of his newfound friend in the first half of the season. Which is interesting because that's the technique that he was taught to use. Again, is to reach for anger, reach for the dark side of the force.
Well, right. Curse energy comes from your negative emotions, and that's true. But so what happens here is Todo slaps him, and he's like, "Yeah, you need that anger, but it can't. It's a double-edged sword. If you overindulge into it, then you can't focus, then you can't channel that energy. You disconnect from it. So I need you to clear your head and just focus."
And I love that Hanami like lets this happen.
Like classic shonen.
Oh
You
yeah.
guys, it actually asked, are they fighting each other?
Right.
Yeah.
I did think of, because Hanami after this point has been very aggressive, attacking everything, and then suddenly, oh, okay, I'll stop. You guys gonna have a conversation? It's fine. Oh wait, over here. Very shonen, but yeah, that thought did strike me. So we get the scene of Yuji so focused that they actually animate drool dribbling down his chin and falling off. And at first I'm like, wait, why is he drooling? And again, this is the moment Yuji actually clicks for me, like, oh, he's just I called him like a carefree guy in the last time, and he is. He's just blank. He's a guy who can clear his mind, and when he clears it, it is actually clear. I can't even imagine what that must be like, but it must be nice.
Lucky his heart keeps beating.
Right. And he attacks and he lands a black flash. And so we get to explain what the black flash is. Obviously, we've talked about it a couple times, but it also is a 2.5 times damage amplifier.
Yes, mathematics. Now I understand the power scaling.
I think I read that Mother's Basement called it a critical hit.
Yeah, that works.
It's like, that's what it is, isn't it? Yeah, so he manages to land that, and Todo's like, now you get it. Now you've felt the energy hit at the right point. Now that you know what it feels like, you know what you're aiming for. Now you're like a chef who knows the taste of the food you're cooking with rather than just following a recipe. And they
I
do
love
like
the Food Wars style moment they do here with like
decked out
dishes
tables.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And then we are treated to a visual feast in this episode. This is a lot of budget, obviously, coordinated attacks, running on tree roots that are just spiraling everywhere, and they're
spinning
running
around each other.
Yeah, grabbing each other, flipping each other to the next branch, doing combo hits. And then eventually they go up for a second hit, and Hanami makes all the roots underneath them just disappear. And Toto's like, oh, I thought they were making real roots big, but no, those are all just her curse energy. That she is very powerful, or he is very powerful. And then she tries to spear him in the air. They manage to dodge together by pushing off of each other. And then they decide, okay, it's time for a real fight, and Toto is ready to reveal his technique. And they do a great job of this. First, Toto, who declares he has a 530,000 IQ, and then it says self-proclaimed. Yeah. So in his eyes, he's a genius. And he's like, okay, this is all its attacks, this is everything it's been able to do. There's no way we can lose. And they start running to fight. He instantly gets grabbed and thrown. His face of like, what? And he's flying towards these other roots of spikes pop up for him to fly into. And right before he hits it, we hear a clap. And then we see Hanami, the cursor himself, fly into the roots. Because it's a female voice actor, I had thought it was a female, but then Toto does call it him, and I'm trying to get it right. All right, so Hanami falls into the roots, and then so Toto explains his technique. And it is every time, or when I clap my hands, I can switch places with my opponent. And this is where Yuji goes, wait, Toto. He's like, no. So we need to talk about explaining techniques, because this was really cool. And they've established when you explain your techniques, it makes it more effective, because if your opponent believes in your techniques, then it'll work better.
I never got the impression that it was the belief. I got the impression it was more like a sort of like the contract when you make a pact, right? Words actually matter. So if you speak that this is my technique, you've performed the necessary task of divulging the information, and now the rule clamps down on your technique and improves it. Not necessarily that the other person believes it.
I guess I thought because it was curses and stuff that it had to do with belief, just like curses are brought into existence by belief. And maybe it's something in between or both.
Yeah, it could be either. I don't know. That was the impression I got, was something different.
Well, Businessman Guy kind of explained it in the first half, and that, yeah, it gives it more validity, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, we just don't know why.
To be 100% honest, I had missed it in the first half until we did the podcast, the last one, and Jeremy mentioned it, and I was like, oh, that's what he said. I missed that somehow. And then when they were talking about it again this time, I'm like, oh, Jeremy was completely right. That is a thing in this world.
It happens.
And that's why I want to talk about it now, because we find out here that Toto is both being dishonest and keeping a secret, which is a great strategy. I love the tactics of Naruto battles. That was one of the things I always liked about Naruto, is like, here's how my powers work, the limitations, and here's how your powers work and limitations, and then figuring out the strategy of beating each other. And so throwing this into the mix of, I'm going to explain my power, which gives me a boost, but if I explain it wrong, that does give me still the element of surprise. And so which one do I want to favor? I do like that.
Mm-hmm. It goes back to the feint, right? If we take it at its most fundamental form, it's just a feint, but using information to do so. And absolutely, I love it. I think it's the most important part of any kind of combat is information control. And yeah, so especially in the case where with Toto divulging the information, would it really give him much of a benefit?
It doesn't enhance his power, right?
Yeah, they're already teleporting. You can't teleport them better. So might as well just mislead them and take advantage of it.
Well, I love it because from this moment, they start trouncing Haname. Absolutely demolishing. And we get this moment inside Haname's head where he's like, this is very frustrating and also confusing, because when I hear the clap, I don't know if they're going to switch or if I'm going to switch with either one of them. So it can be any of the three switching to places. So you just don't know where's going to be what. And for some reason, Toto and Itadori are just on the same page
Brothers.
when it comes to each clap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's beautifully animated.
I didn't mention at this point, Yuji is saying, like, let's go, best friend. Let's go, brother. Even Yuji's fully on board with it. I did.
It's funny because when he looks back later, he's like, I don't know what was going on there. I don't know why I did that. Why I called him brother.
It is interesting that it's like he gets punch drunk, or maybe his mind is so clear he literally can't even build memories at this point. He's in full autopilot.
Yeah.
But I wanted to come back to the powers. I wasn't, or the explaining the powers, because on one hand, shonen does that all the time, right? I'm gonna take time to explain to you how my power works, and usually it's gloating or like, you didn't know this, but it's a very shonen staple. And then this builds it into their world, like you need to do this for the fight to be most effective. That's great. What about the second time we see a character fight a new enemy? Do we have to watch someone explain their power every time they get in a fight? I would assume they wouldn't. I forget his name, the guy from last half, the business guy. Nanami. Every time he fights someone, do we have to watch him explain 7 and 3 all over again from the beginning? If this anime does that, bravo to you, but I don't think you're going to. You built yourself a rule that's going to be hard to follow way later into the series. It's great for new characters and new fights, but...
Yeah. I wonder if they'll hand wave it away with some kind of like, once you're powerful enough, you don't have to explain it. You still get the benefit.
Or maybe just have like, okay, and I just got done explaining that thing to you.
Exactly. Explain it on the other panel off screen.
Yeah. I guess they could do that. But I had that thought of like, that's really smart. But oh wait, maybe it's not as smart, because if Goku had to explain Kamehameha every time he used it, that'd be rough.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I say Gallic gun, what I mean is
they obviously get the upper hand in this battle. The flamenco dancing, the teleporting, it's all beautiful. And again, the Hanami though is enjoying the fight. We had a flashback with her and Mahito where he's like, "You are an evil curse. Battling's in our nature, like fighting and hurting people. That's what we want to do. You should learn to enjoy who you are." And so this is like, she's for the first time is like, "I am enjoying this fight. It's great." Even though she getting butt kicked. Eventually, though, he builds up a plant with the same biters sucking your curse energy that used on Megami. And Toto swaps with Yuji to get him out of the way. And then he's like, "It's fine. I'll build up a huge curse energy barrier and I'll be fine." And then we go inside his head where he has a whole conversation with the idol girl, who she's like, "Think about it all the way through. What happened to the guy who had it in him? Why do you think it was growing? Don't you think it was curse energy? Maybe curse energy is the wrong way to go here." And we see that all happen. So maybe he really is a genius.
And it even timestamps that, and it says that all happened in 0.01 seconds or something like that.
So he drops it and was able, and they bounce off his giant, brawny, beautiful body.
Chiseled.
Little fan service in this one. But then they fight all the way back to the river where the fight started. And he's like, "You haven't noticed. We're back where this started." And he does one more swap, and it sends Yuji into the river. But the weapon that Maki had been using had been dropped in the river, and Megami had hinted at that. And now he has we learned the tools also have levels, much like the spirit curse users do. And this is like top tier. And so he uses it and smacks Hanami in the face. And then Hanami's like, "Okay, I'm going to use my ultimate attack." And basically gets ready to use a domain expansion to kill Toto. But
It
Gojo
sucks all the energy out of the plant
sucks
matter.
all the
around.
light, all the life out of the plants, and then turns that into curse energy that's only in the flower with an eyeball on its shoulder. But it did start saying domain. It was going to do a domain expansion.
Yeah, because it knew there was no way it could hit him with it unless it was in the domain. So it basically did like a mini spirit bomb. That's what it was prepping to.
But Gojo breaks the veil, and that means everything's done.
Yep.
And he's looking around. He's like, "Oh yeah, Yuji, he got really strong. That's good for him. Oh, he was working with Toto. That makes a lot of sense. They're okay over there. I'm gonna go take out the coat rack guy." And he goes down, and the old man's like, "Wait, don't kill him!" And he's like, "I'm not." And he just has his arms and legs just all twist, and explode, and
Actually, kind of grotesque looking.
Yeah.
And then he looks at the old man like, "Oh, you better heal him, or he's gonna die." Okay, it's on you. We see the blonde haired man who's a evil curse user. Basically sees the veil go down and sees Gojo and disappears. And so Gojo's like, "Well, I guess I could let loose a little bit," and he does his purple Big Bang attack. And blast Hanami and
I
destroys.
love how Toto's like, "Hey, Itadori, you're gonna want to back up."
Yeah, Yuji, don't take a step forward. You're gonna get caught in it. And then the blast comes through, and there's a giant canyon there now. He's like, and now we'll not know if that killed it or if it escaped because there's just no way to tell. Everything's gone. And then we learned that the whole reason all this happened is Mahito snuck in and stole all Susuna's fingers and a couple other things. We do see Hanami survive. The blonde guy is like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill it."
Yeah.
And then Mahito's like, "Don't.
You're just a human.
Yeah, we can get you."
Yep.
But not only did he get these fingers, he got these 3 curse wounds, and we're gonna find out a little bit what they are. But basically, the backstory is super messed up.
Man.
A woman that got pregnant with a curse, so a Jujutsu sorcerer took her and experimented on her and just kept impregnating her and aborting her and then these are the 3 results of the experiments. They're like half human, half curse hybrids.
3 of 10, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that the Jujutsu sorcerers were keeping in lockdown with the fingers. And we see Mahito like shoving them into a man's mouth to bring them back into existence.
Question. In the first half of the season, we're introduced to it was called a womb.
Yes.
And it had
that's
not
what these are called
yet.
too.
And that's what these are called too. Is it the same? Is that one of the brothers? It didn't seem to have mental function the way these ones do.
It was Sukuna's finger was the first womb.
But yeah, I'm wondering like why they called it a womb then.
I think a womb is just a curse that hasn't been born yet. So these are
or it's growing.
Yeah, these are wombs just because that's their state, but they are special wombs because they were from that experiment.
Okay, that works.
But I'm not sure because I did ask the same question. All right. We get a fun episode. Basically the teachers are like, "Okay, here's what was stolen. Why did they do this? This is all weird." They interrogate the coat rack guy. He tells them about a monk, an androgynous monk with white hair, and that's the only information they get out of him.
In fact, the audience hasn't seen this character yet.
Yep.
Yeah, we just get a glimpse at that moment, and I don't know. Yeah, we don't know who the heck they are.
We get the 3 main characters hanging out eating pizza. Megumi's like, "I'm gonna get stronger than you, Yuji." Yuji's like, "Okay, I don't care." It's not a thing to him. And Toto shows up. "Best friend, I'm not your best friend. Why? I don't remember any of that. You tricked me."
I never went to middle school with you.
And then we get the baseball game, which is basically just a very fun moment. Everyone gets a little moment to shine. There's always a little funny caption. My favorites were Miwaz says that she has a mango in the fridge she's letting ripe that was gone. And then we get to Mai and it says did not like mangoes until very recently.
Yeah. She's such a jerk.
Pandas really wants to punch a zebra. There's
Yeah.
the payoff. um, yeah, and they're just really funny. And I had to pause them; they go by so quick. I kept having to pause to read them, but they were very good.
Yep.
Uh,
Some of them were kind of boring, but probably just because I don't know the references. Like
right.
the voice guy, I think it was like what he likes to eat. And
Yes.
I bet it's funny if you know more about maybe Japanese cuisine, but it didn't make sense to me.
The baseball game was happening. They thought they were going to have basically a battle tournament, but it could be anything. And Gojo switched the the papers and the drawing thing, so it was a baseball game. Megami does a sacrifice bunt. Yuji hits a home run, very much in character with them. One of the things I thought was really interesting though was the two principals talking, the old guy and the principal of the Tokyo school, and they're talking about Yuji and like, I don't know what to do with him either, but let's not kill him. Let's just see how this plays out. Let's just give it some time. And at the same time, they're showing them watching these ants marching, working together, all of them on the same team, serving the colony, right? The greater good.
Mm.
And then at the end, Gojo walks right through the ants. And
Steps on him.
what a perfect metaphor.
Yes.
Like he just does not care.
Yep.
That was good. That was really clever storytelling right there.
And it fits his personality too. Like when you're that powerful, how can you possibly be anything but, a bit out of touch?
So then the last 3 episodes are our final arc, and they basically are investigating these deaths of 4 men who all went to the same middle school together. They go investigate the middle school, and they find out that Megami went to this middle school as well. And he used to be a bully. He used to beat up basically every hoodlum or thug or every jerk in the school. And he was a problem child. And
Does
then
that
they
really qualify you as a bully? Being a bully just to bullies?
They called it
violence.
Anyway, they learned that nearby there's a bridge that's used for suicide, but it's also used by kids for a test of courage. And they kind of figure out that the curse comes from there. And we also learned that Megami has a sister who's in a coma, but that she had been under that curse or under that bridge, so she would be part of the curse as well that's killing people. And when Megami calls for protection, they're like, this is bigger than we thought it was. You guys should get out of there. And he's like, well, if this involves my sister, I have to go. And so he tries to go alone. But Yuji and Obara are like, nope, we're not letting you go alone. And they go in and basically enter into this curse's domain under the bridge. And it's like a whack-a-mole thing.
It
was a Diglett.
Complete domain, right?
It's an incomplete domain. That's right.
Yeah. It was. This was such a like Diglett attack. They just kept popping up everywhere, and they look just like them.
Yep. And then a green curse, which we had seen. It was one of the ones the curse wombs that had been created shows up, and
It
so
looks like
Yuji
Slimer on legs.
It does.
Yeah.
Yuji decides to fight it himself, and so he's battling it while they take care of the other one. And then Nobara gets taken through the wall. And they're like, that keeps happening. But the green guy's like, oh, I'm going too. And so he runs through the wall, and so Yuji goes after him, and Megami's like, I'll handle the rest of this. He takes out all the whack-a-moles, but then realizes what's really going on is that this curse had a Sukuna finger, and now has been activated because Sukuna has come back to life and now has started killing people because of that, and gives birth to a special grade curse, almost identical to the one we had seen in like episode 4. The one that had blasted, Megami had run away from to save Nobara, and Yuji had almost ended up getting killed afterwards. But
Yeah.
And he has to face it alone. And we see this flashback that he's been training with Gojo, trying to get stronger than Yuji. And, Gojo had pointed out to him, Yuji always swings for the home run, man. Like you've got to push yourself. You think you have that suicide move, and you think that's how you're going to always win. But you need to win. And beaten and bloody, he kind of goes a little nuts. He's like, you want to get crazy? Let's get crazy. And he does his own incomplete domain expansion, but a domain expansion where he basically has shadows popping up and his own copy of himself, and he kills the thing. And it's a great fight. It's a great callback to his failing back in episode 4 or 5. It's so cool. And again, this is where I was like, this character is very interesting.
Yeah. It also was really cool when we learned about how his summoning works. Like, he has 10 slots, so he's got 10 Pokeballs.
Yes.
And if any of your Pokemon die, then whatever they're paired with gets the power that they had. So, like, his wolf is now an Uber Wolf because it's got the power from the white one.
The white dog had died, so now the black dog has the white and black dog power combined as a super wolf.
Yeah, and it's powerful enough to literally put its claws through a special grade curse now.
So does that mean he can now make a new one, like the elephant he made to replace the white? Okay,
I believe so.
He can always have.
He has to tame them, he said. So it sounds like there are these curses that he can go around and, I guess, collect like a Pokeball.
Catch 'em all.
Because he mentioned that with the elephant. He's like, I just recently tamed this one.
Mm-hmm.
He would be such a character. That'd be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, now that he passes out with the finger.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Nobara and Yuji are fighting the two brothers. The green guy was one of the brothers, and there's another guy who looks like he strips at Chippendale. And he's awesome. He's kind of nice. He's actually like, hey, you haven't seen my back. You're not what I'm here for. So why don't you just leave? And Nobara's like, no, I'm gonna kill you. And then he's like, as long as you don't see my back, I don't have a problem. And then Yuji walks up behind him, and so he's
like, you freak.
Yeah. And even his brother, the green freak guy, is behind there too, and he turns around, he's flipping out on him, and the green one's like, I'm sorry, brother.
So the reason his back is grotesque is he has like a rotted corpse face all across his back. Apparently it stinks really bad too.
Yep.
So we get this really cool fight, a 2v2 fight, and their power, they hit Nobara and Yuji with their blood, and it basically decomposes you. They keep saying it's not a poison, it works like a poison, but it's actually decomposing you, and you have about 10 to 15 minutes to live. And of course we explained it, so it's actually shorter than that.
Yeah.
But Nobara puts nails into her arms, doing so that using that blood to link them. So basically they feel everything they're feeling. And I think she's keeping it vague to make it sound like if I go down, you go down. But I think it won't kill them. I don't think. But they'll.
And this is all in an attempt to get them to release the curse,
right?
The technique, because even if they kill them, the technique will still kill Nabaru and Itadori.
Right. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Yuji, who has the king of curses and the king of poisons apparently inside him, he's just not affected by it. I mean, it'll kill him, but it's not slowing him down. So he's wailing on the green guy. And so the back guy with the thing on his back is like, they're gonna kill my brother, and we're in too much pain from our own curse. And Nobara keeps putting more nails into her arm to up the effect. And so he ends up release them to save his brother. And then, man, that scene where Nobara and Yuji switch opponents,
right?
Fly into each other back to back, and then spin around and then rush forward again. So the fights are always so pretty.
Yeah.
Nobara kills the green guy. Just takes. She's like, I didn't.
I was so sad.
Yep, and the brother is crying, and it shows a flashback of all three brothers. Like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna help the curses, but remember, you live for him, he lives for me, and I live for you. We are for each other, right? And so when dying, he starts crying, and that affects Yuji and also the body doesn't disappear. It's not a curse. They didn't exercise it. It has got human in it, and so they have killed. And so the guy with the back, he he tries to get away on a truck. He jumps on a truck and takes a hostage.
Well, Yuji uses Black Flash and blows his arm off.
Yep. Yes, and Nobara also had Black Flash. That's how she got the green guy so good. Wasn't the killing move, but might as well have been.
Yeah.
Yuji chases after the truck, and Nobara uses that arm that was left behind to attack him because she can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Yuji makes the decision and kills him. And then they have, I really like their conversation as they walk through the woods about, like, have you ever killed before? And her saying, like, I just can't care about all that much. And they go and
I also like that we get like a look back at where they had fought, and they took the time to arrange the two brothers to be like next to each other.
Yeah.
Even though they were in completely different places. So they followed through with that concern. It was enough to make action.
Yep. They go back to Megami, who wakes up and he's like, Yuji, can you hold the finger? Don't eat it. Can you please hold the finger? He's like, I'm not a dog. I'm not going to just eat it. Because he did suggest eating it, though, because he's like, what do we do with it? I could eat it. Like, we don't know what happens if you eat it. When Yuji takes it, Sukuna makes his one and only appearance in this half, and a mouth opens up on the hand and eats the finger. Gets control for a half a second, but then Yuji is able to put him away. And they're like, oh, we didn't think of that. We messed up.
Yep.
And then we come to kind of our epilogue of the season. We see Gojo planning a drinking party, but really he's talking in code about the spy, trying to figure out what to do, and paying off the
Mei
Bang girl, for a favor at something.
Yep.
Not really
great,
clear.
Great face. Yep. And she's just cackling maniacally at the ATM.
Megami and Nobara are talking, and they're like, so Yuji's whole thing is like, if I'm alive, I'll keep people from dying. But now we know, since Sukuna is alive, curses are actively killing people if they have his finger in it. So literally, Yuji being alive is getting people killed, which means the old guy is kind of right. This is such a good twist at the end of like, this is not as clean cut as you guys thought it was. And Megami and Nobara are like, we're not going to tell Yuji. Then we cut to Yuji, and Sukuna is telling him, by the way, people are killing people because you're alive. And Yuji's like, don't tell Megami. Don't you dare tell him. And then we just see the three go shopping, and then they get called in for a mission by Gojo. And they're going to be made into level 1 sorcerers.
They've already made it to first grade.
Yeah, basically everyone is going to become a first grade. They said a bunch of names. I didn't write them down.
It was Panda, Maki, and the three of them.
Oh, okay. Panda, Maki, and 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Toge's. All right. I guess he couldn't have special grade.
Nope.
I do like that his power had a limit like that. Of if it's more powerful than me, my voice will break trying to take it up. All right. And that brings us to it. Any thoughts on these last few moments before we go to final reviews?
Just the animation is beautiful, and if you haven't seen this anime, even if we've spoiled it for you, I think it's worth a watch just for these fight scenes.
Yeah, finding the fight scenes. I went back and watched the Toto Boogie Woogie fight again. Twice, I think.
That was so good.
All right, then let's go on to our final reviews. Jason, what'd you think?
This half and the season as a whole, I'm gonna give it a 4. It's not a perfect anime. Like we mentioned earlier, I didn't get the emotional beats that I did when watching, say, My Hero Academia. The premise is really interesting. It definitely has like a mix between Naruto and Bleach vibe with the main character, but the world that they've built, the characters are very well done, and I think I'm going to look forward for season 2. This is compelling, so yeah, I give it a 4.
So I liked this half of the season a lot more than the first half of the season. It made me laugh. The characters were more entertaining. I got to learn about Panda, which was really cool. And I was actually upset a little bit when one of the brothers died, and then the other one died. It was really sad, which means that was really good writing. If I could be inclined to care about any characters. So so I got to give it to them that they do a good job in a short amount of time making these characters worth caring about, and that's pretty cool. I still have a little bit of an issue with, and maybe this isn't fair because it's just shonen in general, but that whole talking while the enemy just stands there and waits for you, that just drives me nuts. And explaining all the tactics you're going to do, I think it could be done with less words. I think that you could have some of the conversation during the combat. You know, I'm not a writer and I'm not an anime maker, so I don't. I'm just coming at it completely from an ignorant perspective here, but I am an anime consumer, and I think I've seen some that do that. So maybe there is some possibility there. But all in all, it was definitely better than the first half of the season for me. So that I got to give it a 4. All in all, still going to give it a 3.
Okay. This is pretty close to peak shonen. If you are into shonen anime, I don't see how you're not liking this. If you're not into shonen anime, I don't know if this is going to win you over, though.
Sure.
It falls... purposely is doing most of the stuff. I do think the fact that we had so many episodes in a row that were all fights, story kept moving. There are flashbacks, but they're quick. They're done. Again, my real only complaint is that I just don't get the hype that I'm usually looking for from shonen, but I still am having a lot of fun. So I'm going to give it a 4 overall for me. So our next anime will be determined at a later time because we were not fully prepared when we recorded this episode. We're having a little trouble. It's my job to remind you too. Work's been crazy. That's why episodes have been delayed and getting released as well. Just real life stuff getting in the way. We're still watching and recording at the same speed, but the other little detail stuff is getting harder to get done. Anyway, please follow us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast, where you can also leave a comment, and that is where we will announce the next episode when this episode releases to the public. You can also reach us on our email, the animebakaclub@gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you found the podcast, and it'll get back to us. Look, I'm used to the rhythm, all right? It's out of the rhythm. All right. So, yeah, we apologize for the delay on that, but we will be announcing our next anime soon. And then we will talk about it here in 2 weeks. Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope to hear from you soon. Let's say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Pendash!
Yeah!